Thanks for stopping by. Today's episode is a special celebratory one to congratulate Koouji on turning 5. Today, May 5th, is his golden birthday, and we're going to start out by trying to give him some treats. I don't think it'll be too hard. We have his favorite, which is the feline greenies dental treats, and we also have a new one that we haven't opened up yet called Wholehearted Savory and Tasty Soft Treats, and this is the whitefish recipe. So we'll see if he likes his new present treat or if he prefers the old one. And I'm sure we're going to get a visit from Koouji as well. So let me open these. Oh, that smells really strong. I'm sure he's going to like these. I know Koouji loves fish, so she'll probably actually like these more than him. Let's see. Come on, Koouji. See if we can get him to come over here. Come on. Is he gonna come over? He's interested. See if I put it on my lap, if he'll come by. It's right there. It's like he wants to take the leap, but he's not too sure about it. Happy birthday. And let's give one to Koouji. Alright, so treats have been distributed now. Let's see if he wants to come up. I'll leave a couple on my lap to see if he's daring. He just like swiped it off my lap, so that is fine. That is Koouji for ya. But yes, so today's episode is going to be dedicated to Koouji. And then next month, we'll have one for Koouji because her birthday is on June 3rd and she'll be 7 years old. So the story of Koouji, if you are new here or if you haven't tuned into all of my episodes, you probably should, I've peppered in a few stories about him already, but to give you the full origin of Koouji, it started out back in 2015. A coworker of mine actually has a feral, like a semi-feral colony in her neighborhood, and she noticed that there was a mama cat lurking around, looking very pregnant, and not too long after that, she discovered that the mother, Lily, who has now passed away, was having her kittens under her back porch. So she took a few photos and told another cat fanatic at our job that there's a new family of kittens in her neighborhood, and our other coworker friend was very determined to trap, possibly rehome some of these kittens if she could get them socialized, and maybe release the mom if she wasn't friendly enough to be adoptable. So she set up a few traps, and she was able to get the whole family, a couple at a time, and Koouji actually was the last cat they were able to trap from that litter. And my coworker who had trapped them wanted to relinquish them to a shelter in the greater metropolitan area, but considering May is very popular and well-known kitten season with the warmer months in the Midwest, a lot of kittens do come into shelters, and the shelter she wanted to send them to was just too full. So they asked if she could socialize them and foster them in her own home. So she had a little space in her bathroom, and she was able to keep the mother and the 4 kittens with her so that they could nurse and get some human interaction. And that's kind of how I came to get in touch with connecting with Koouji. It started out where I had an itch for another cat, and I was lucky enough to find out that my apartment I was living in at the time allowed for 3 cats. And I had Kabu and Kokuo, who has passed away now, and I was like, ooh, I want one more cat. And I was looking at the shelter site where Kabu and Kokuo had come from, and I saw this really cute, very fuzzy kitten, and she was 4 months old, so just about adoptable age. And I told my crazy cat lady friend at work about her. I'm like, oh, there's this really cute kitten at the shelter that Kabu and Kokuo came from, and I really, really, really want to get her. And she's like, actually, I just trapped a whole family of kittens. You might want to wait on that, because I think I can get them socialized enough to be adoptable. So I was like, okay, all right, I will wait around for that. And at first, funny enough, Koouji was not my first pick. His brother, who is a ginger cat, formerly named Paul, now living as Butters, was the cat that I wanted, because I really wanted a red tabby cat. I heard great things about red tabbies, and considering Kabu and her late brother are, Goku's trying to, oh no, not Goku, Koji's trying to get a couple other treats. You're gonna have to come here if you want some. And so I wanted to change things up and get an orange tabby. And so I told her, I want Paul. And she's like, actually, my in-laws have claimed Paul. And at first they didn't, but then they changed their mind, they wanted Paul. I was like, okay, in-laws, of course, will trump coworker who wants Paul. So I then waited around, and she finally got who was formerly Zachary, now Koouji. And he was just this scraggly looking little kitten. He hadn't quite grown into his fluff yet. And he was a little scrawny, but he was fluffy. I knew he was going to be fluffy, so I was like, all right, I'll go with him, since I did want a fluffier cat to begin with. And after a few visits to her bathroom in her condo, I got to know the kittens and meet the mom, and everybody was super friendly. I couldn't pet them yet, but I could give them treats, which is his weakness. And a few more visits after that, I was like, all right, I think I'm ready. And it was actually my birthday week, and that weekend rolled around, and she brought him over. And he lived in my bathroom for several months, because at the time, I had just come back from traveling out of town, and Kabu and Kokuo had developed an upper respiratory and were sneezing and runny noses and everything like that. So I had to make sure they were medicated and in the clear before I could introduce them to this kitten who just might, get sick from them. And then it turned out that Kokuo was very ill, and he had cancer and needed to be treated for that. So everything was kind of put on the wayside to make sure that Kokuo was okay. And then eventually we did have to put him to sleep. And then once he was put to sleep, we were able to refocus on getting Koouji socialized with Kabu. Now, at first, when they were together, it was very slow introductions, crack the bathroom door a little bit, the standard slow go at the pace of the cats to get him used to her. And then all of a sudden it switched where Kabu was a little friendlier towards him, and then he wasn't at first, but then it turned around and he wanted to engage with her, and she wasn't all that keen on warming up to him, so that took even longer. And then finally, one day, I was able to get them in the bathroom together, started feeding them wet food, which is their favorite. Who doesn't like wet food? And he would slowly let me kind of touch him with a wand toy. And eventually I could reach my hand down and pet him. And it was at that point where he was eating his dinner with his big sister Kabu and having a good time with her that he discovered that human pets were actually really great. And ever since then, he's been like the cuddliest cat I have ever had. I mean, Coco was really chill. He was older when I got him, and then Koouji kind of molded into a cuddly cat. And of course you see on my Instagram all the pictures of him just laying on me on the bed with us and everything. And he's just a very lovable kitty. And you might be wondering, what does Koouji mean? Where does that name come from? And so you notice Kabu, her name actually is Kabu, and Kokuo, the cat I had who passed away, his name also starts with K, and as you know, Koouji starts with K. And I wanted to keep that theme. And it actually derives from the Japanese word prince, which is Ouji, O-U-J-I, and then Ko, in front of a word means small or little. So his name roughly translates to little prince. And Kokuo's name was a little emperor. So when I had Kokuo and Kabu first, Kokuo was like the ruler of the house. And then when I introduced this third cat, who was also a boy, I thought, well, he's the next one in line, so he's the little prince. And that's how Koouji got his name. And now that he does not want to cuddle with me, we'll get into the knitting portion of today's episode. As you all know, it is not a tutorial, but my goal today is to start working on a mat for them. As you can see, I am sitting on a chair and I happen to be in my living room because this is like their realm. I want to make a rug for them so that they have like a nice little cozy place to hang out beyond just the cushion itself on the chair or on the couch or in their carrier. And I want to make it big enough so that I can actually felt it. So it's more like one solid piece of fabric than a very defined stitch pattern. So I brought my equipment that I need for that today down here in my really big bag. And I have some of that loppy yarn that I told you guys about. I was working on the Meadow Lane pattern with it for the scarf for my friend's boyfriend. And I have a whole lot left over from one of my coworkers who donated it to me. But I just don't really like the feeling of it. So I feel like a felted mat / kind of blanket for the kitties will be better used. So I have this like fudgy brown color, and I also have this really deep purple. So we'll start with the brown. And since it's going to shrink, I'm going to cast on a lot of stitches. And because I don't know how many I need, I'm going to do a standard knit cast on instead of a long tail, because usually if I try to do a long tail, it always ends up either really, really, really long or too short, and I have to rip it out and start over again. So I'd rather just do a knitted cast on, since it's just gonna be for my kitties. And then we'll see how long I kind of want the finished project to be. So I don't really need it to be super duper felted, but I would at least like to run it through the wash maybe twice, see what it's looking like. Even if it's closer to a mat that would just fit into a carrier, that's fine. Just a little place to kind of be a landing pad for them. And since I don't have my yarn bowl I just made, this cake is a little too big for that. So I'll just put it back in my bag, and I'm sure somebody's gonna investigate that pretty soon. I just have a feeling Koouji is eyeballing me. And so beyond just his regular name, he does have a few nicknames that we've come up with over the years since he's been one of our family members. For me, I like to call him Bobo, like a clown, Bobo the clown, because he's so silly. I also call him Koouji Woji. That's a popular one I use. I also call him my Christmas goose because he's gray like a goose, and he's not fat, even though he's fluffy. He is not fat, and I like to think he looks like a Christmas dinner, like a Christmas goose, just kind of like a nice round, kind of hefty cat. And so that's where I get those names from. So let me know in the comments if you have 1,000,001 names you call your pet that isn't the name that they were given when you either adopted them or found them, whatever the case may be. What kinds of nicknames do you have for your pets? And then of course next month I'll let you know all the nicknames we have for Kabu. I give her a special episode as well. I have a feeling I'm going to be casting on a lot of these, so depending on how far I get, we might be picking this up next month when we talk about Kabu. But I did want to give an extra special shout out to Koouji today since he is 5. I feel like 5 is like a pretty solid age for a cat. They're out of their, well, supposedly out of their kitten stage, but I honestly think Koouji and Kabu still have a lot of those kitten tendencies. They're pretty playful. They're just very silly cats. I don't really feel like they're full adult cats yet in like their mentality, but they're very much adult cats in their age. But I think that's good. If you have a cat that's older that still acts very young and kitten-like, I think that's a good sign they're gonna live a long, happy life. Kokuo, who has passed away, he was, as I mentioned earlier, 6 years old when I adopted him, and he wasn't like a curmudgeon-y old cat, but he was definitely like, he's been around. He kind of knows how to be a cat at that point. He was trained up. Whoever had him previously was pretty good because he had a very even temper. He was super social with guests. You know, he'd never hide if the doorbell rang. He'd actually want, people around because that meant more pets and more cuddles and attention. So he is very good about that. And he didn't jump on the counters or anything. He used the litter box without any issue, though he did like to pee. There was one rug. Well, okay, I take that back. There was a shag rug that he loved to barf his hairballs on, and we had to wash that thing like 1,000,000 times, so I ended up just throwing it out. And then there was a rug by our front door, and it almost seemed like every time I'd come home with groceries, he would pee on that rug where the groceries were, and it was just a weird thing. And it wasn't until we moved to the last place we lived in when he passed away that he was doing that. So I wonder if it was because of his tumor that he had, because we later found out that he had one really big tumor in the back of his head, and it was causing him seizures later on. And then he also had a lot of tumors in his lungs. And I'm wondering if those earlier stages of him peeing on the rug was a sign of that tumor, like messing with his sense of what to pee on, or maybe even his bladder, like he couldn't control it by the time he got into the area where the litter box was. So I'm not too sure about that. But those were like the only two things. But it's so funny because he wouldn't really meow meow, but he'd kind of make these breathless kind of noises that were kind of like squeaks almost. And it's so funny, but he was a pretty chill cat. But Koouji is actually very vocal, considering I don't know who taught him how to meow, considering he was a feral first before he became a human companion. You know, you kind of wonder, where did they pick that stuff up? Because he was just living with his litter mates, and it wasn't like anyone else was really communicating with humans that he could have learned that from. And then he was already meowing before he met Kabu, and Kabu clearly loves to meow as well. So those are funny traits that cats adapt to and pick up. But Koji's gonna have a good extra scoop of kibble tonight and some wet food. They love their wet food. So he'll have some more of that. So I think he'll have a good birthday. So let me know in the comments, do you recall the birthday of your pets? Some people I know celebrate the day that their pet was adopted. Koouji was officially adopted in September of the year he was born, but they had official sightings around May 5th when they could identify little kittens under the back porch of my former coworker's house. So that May 5th was the day that the vets described as all of his litter mates' birthday. Do you have their official birthday, adoption day, any landmark day that you celebrate, or do you kind of just round out the year, like we don't really know, it'll just count it by year instead of actual month? How specific do you get? Do you give your pets special treats on their birthday? Let me know in the comments. It's so funny because this morning I woke up super early for me, of course, as you know. And here he just ran under my chair. And I got an email from his vet to say happy birthday. So it's kind of funny that, of course, it's all in the system, you know, send a message out for the birthdays, but to think that they addressed it to him, but it was my email. It's like, oh, Koouji, you got some emails. Here, the vet is wishing you happy birthday. Though I know he absolutely does not want to go in there for his annual, but he has to soon. When we brought him in, he's found something interesting to play with over there. We brought him in last for his tummy ache, as you guys may remember. We were going to have him get his rabies shot, but our vet advised against it because he already got some other inoculations, and they're like, no, that's probably going to overdo it for him right now. Let's just wait it out. And it's been a while, but considering we are still operating on reduced access to public spaces, and my vet clinic happens to be going through a renovation right now and relocated, it's better if we just wait till everything calms down to get him in. Of course, if there's an emergency, we'll bring him through, but just for his annual, I think we can wait until maybe October, and it'd be about a year then since his last visit. But Kabu, on the other hand, oh, her ears perked up. she needs to go in for her annual as well. And she needs a dental cleaning because it's been a while. A long while. So she needs to get that done. But I feel like I have to really work up my upper body strength to corral Koouji into his carrier. He loves to sleep in it now. Since we brought it out to take him last time, he's been living his life in that carrier. But as soon as he knows something is happening, he doesn't want to go in it. C'est la vie. Well, as you can see, I haven't cast on nearly enough stitches yet, but that is all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for celebrating Koouji's wonderful 5th birthday with me. You'll see I'm going to have a montage of photos playing right here for a little bit for you. But once that's over, that'll be the end of the video. So thank you so much for tuning in once more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.